really kind of wonder how I really did it. And I think during the time, everything that I can recall is I was just in survival mode. I didn't have the opportunity to really grieve. I didn't have the opportunity to really process all of it until years later because I just had to keep going. And I think sometimes when we're in the midst of a crisis, because we're women and, we have a family, we have jobs, we have, so much, we're used to just juggling the balls. And I think, well, I know that's what I did because I lost 3 decades of my life realizing that I didn't process the grief for quite some time.
Welcome to E3, Engage and Empower with Empathy, a podcast brought to you by the Empathy Collective, a consulting firm that helps business leaders inspire change, one conversation at a time. I'm Rebecca Dreamy, your host and founder of the Empathy Collective, and we are building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion, taking care of people at work. Whether you are a blue-collar worker or white-collar worker, small business owner or corporate executive, you belong in this community. Some people talk about resilience, others embody it. For Debi Lynn, resilience wasn't a concept she studied. It was a lifeline she had to grasp in her darkest moments. After the devastating loss of her son, followed by years of financial struggle, heartbreak, and rebuilding from rock bottom, Debi transformed her pain into purpose. Her journey from grief educator to business resilience strategist and creator of Heart-Led Awakening is a testament to what it means to turn breakdowns into breakthroughs and setbacks into strategies. Today, Debi helps powerhouse women rise from disruption, loss, burnout, shattered identity, and rediscover their courage, clarity, and confidence. In this conversation, Debi opens up about the night that changed everything, how empathy became the bridge between healing and leadership. For some of you out there, you may be trying to cope with grief, anxiety, or burnout during the holiday season. While the streets are sprinkled with lights and the radio plays the same upbeat holiday songs on repeat, you are in pain. Let Debi's message give you strength, knowing that you are not alone and what you are feeling is okay. I hope this conversation gives you hope that there is a path from pain to feeling joy again. Welcome to the show, Debi. It is such a delight to have you here. I know I've had the pleasure of talking to you before we've had this recording and hear your story, so I'm really eager to share your story with my listeners. You're making a positive impact on a lot of people's lives by sharing the story and getting it out there. So thank you so much for being here and taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
So let's talk about your story. You currently work in business resilience, but it really stems from a very deeply personal journey that you've been through. I'd love to hear more about what that journey looked like for you and where empathy played a role in that journey.
Yeah, so for me, it started when I lost my 4-month-old son. I also had a daughter at the time. I was married. And within that same week, I lost my job. I walked into my job and they called me into the conference room and here I'm thinking, okay, they're going to see how I'm doing. I mean, after all, I just had lost my son, right? Missed 3 days. You get the typical 3 days, which is nothing. And no, instead it was kinda like, "Oh, it's just not working out." And here I was the leader, I was the one who always worked the extra hours. Within that same week, yeah, I lost my job, my son, and nearly myself. I almost tried to end my life just because I felt so lost and just did not know how to move forward. And here I knew I still had a daughter that I had to take care of, and at the time, my husband just couldn't cope at all. And so he was no help and didn't want to talk about it either. So yeah, it started not in a good place, but I've learned a lot and I've learned how to honor myself and know that it's okay to feel the pain and the guilt and the anger.
How did you process all of that? It happened to you so suddenly to lose your child and then lose your job. I mean, I'm sure you were in a state of shock initially, but how How did you process it? What happened?
You know, I sit there sometimes and I really kind of wonder how I really did it. And I think during the time, everything that I can recall is I was just in survival mode. I didn't have the opportunity to really grieve. I didn't have the opportunity to really process all of it until years later. I just had to keep going. Sometimes when we're in the midst of a crisis, because we're women and we have a family, we have jobs, we have so much, we're used to just juggling the balls. Well, I know that's what I did because I lost 3 decades of my life realizing that I didn't process the grief for quite some time. I couldn't even say my son's name in the beginning. I would just tell people I lost my son. I was still stuffing it, "Suck it up, buttercup." That's what I was told all my life. My dad was a United States Air Force B-52 tail gunner, tough man, and you just keep going. And that's the way I lived my life for so long.
I remember you telling me when we talked last, because you said, you were in this state of crisis and you felt like there was no other choice but to take your own life. Obviously, you're still with us today, thankfully. I'm glad you're here. How did you get to that point, and how did you lift yourself out of it?
Well, I got to the point, I think, because one thing, I was young. I was alone. I came to Texas. I moved from Oregon, hopped on a bus with $100, my kids, and suitcase, and started over. And I thought when I got here, my parents would be supportive and help me. But basically, when I went to my parents, it was kind of like, you made your bed, now lie in it. And I was kind of like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay, no help here. So I went to the only place that I knew, which was the Nazarene church that I grew up in many years before. So I went to the church and, met some of the ladies there, and they took me under their wing and helped watch the kids while I went and tried to find a job. And the night that I tried to commit suicide, I drank a bottle of wine and took a bottle of Tylenol. But as I lay on the floor, I was pretty out of it. I called Miriam, which was the lady that I call my adoptive mom now. And she's been by my side throughout. And I called her and I said, I just took a whole bottle of Tylenol and drank a bottle of wine. I need help. So it was like this voice inside me at the last moment said, you don't need to do this. And I really feel like it was a God thing. It was like an angel reaching out. And so I called just in time. They said, had I waited another 5, 10 minutes, I wouldn't be here. So I really believe that Miriam saved my life.
It's incredible to me that there was a piece of you that knew that you needed to hang on somehow. You made that call to Miriam. I'm a strong believer that the universe gives you signs, and you got that one, and Miriam was your lifeline. What did life look like after you got out of the hospital and you started to recover? Was there a mindset shift after you were basically on the brink of life and death?
Yeah, I think at that moment, and with Miriam's wisdom, she's like, Debbie, you're such a good person and you love your kids so much. You need to do this for them. She made me realize that it wasn't about me at that moment. Even though, yes, I was still hurting, I was still grieving, I was still processing the loss and starting over and realizing, wow, I lost my identity too, my income. I lived in shock for a little while, but a voice, kept telling me, keep going. And Miriam and another lady in the church, Donna, basically took me in, and I went back and forth, staying with both of them taking care of the kids while I went to school 5 nights a week. Because at that time I had no skills. I was raised in the church and we were taught to be submissive to our husband. That's the way I was raised. So I had no skills. I had nothing. I really did have to pick myself up from the bootstraps and just keep pushing and through the positivity with the church. And I got back involved and I love to sing. So I sang in the choir and just put my life back in God's hands. And whatever I needed to do, realize that the only way I could get through it was with God's help and people surrounding me with the love that I needed. I feel like it was a cloud of love is how I survived.
I love the way you describe that, the cloud of love. A lot of conversations I have on this podcast, we talk about the importance of human connection in building resilience. And clearly that was a big supporting network for you. So let's talk a little bit about how you came to help women with resilience and business resilience. I love how you talk about turning pain into profit. So you experienced your own pain and now you've built your own successful business, and it sounds like you were doing the same for other women. Can you talk about what that looks like, and do you have an example of a woman you've helped or someone you've helped where they've gone through a major transformation?
The big thing to do is number one, to figure out where they are in their pain. Sometimes I think it's a little bit hard to really understand what's happening to us. So what I try to do is ask some questions and um, basically have the woman embrace what they're going through. Once you can open up and really look inside at your truth of what's happening in the story, in the situation that you're currently in, because when we're going through it, it is so overwhelming. And it's to the point that we have to really look inside ourselves. And if we don't ask questions like, who was I before the world gave me expectations? What was I passionate about before I was told I had to be X, Y, and Z? Let's bring the joy back into our heart. And once we can open that and we can look at who that person is, like ask yourself, well, who was Debbie before the world expected me to be a mom? A manager, all of these things, then we can start really looking at how do we rebuild and get back to the joy and the passion, because then the purpose becomes who we want to be, and that's when we can turn the pain into profit.
I love that. Do you have an example of how you've helped a woman go through that journey and transform that pain into profit?
I had a client once, her name was Sarah. Ironically, she had lost a son, but it was to suicide, and he was 21. And she was really struggling with, what do I do next? He was her only son, so that makes it very difficult too. And she was also married. And so we were able to relate quite a bit. The first thing I asked her was, how long ago did it happen? Well, she had only been in the grieving process for about a year and a half. And I really try to work with people who have been in it for a little while. And the reason why is if it's too fresh, they can't even process it yet. The first thing that I ask her to do is journal every single day her feelings. And I have what I call the flower of emotions. And the first thing that we do is we talk about our emotions for the day. And the emotions can change throughout the day. And that's what I indicate. And so I say, I want you to write down your emotions throughout the day. What made you feel happy? What made you feel sad? What made you feel angry? What made you feel guilty? All of these feelings you're experiencing. And you have to be able to process that in order to move forward and to really then get the joy from the pain.
You mentioned you don't like to work with people when they're too early in their grief because it's difficult to process. How did you approach that woman who was still pretty fresh out of her son's death? Did you pause for a little bit and kind of let her take the time to process before you really worked closely with her? What was your approach with that?
Yeah, the first thing that I did is asked her to share her story. They have to feel like there's a safe place for them to be. And I shared a little bit about my story because that's how people come to me. I had the Friends in Grief site, but I also had the Business Resilience. And she came to me through my site and said that she had been referred by someone else. The first thing that I asked her is, what did you resonate with on my site? And why did you choose me?
Mm.
Because I wanted to see what did she see and how could I then support her? And that's one of the first things that I asked too is, well, how can I support you? What are you going through right now? Because when you're fresh, your emotions are very different. And I want you to know that I'm here with you no matter how you are feeling. When I first started helping people, I gave them my phone number. It's like you can call me 24/7, and I meant it. That's the type of person I am. I'm a giver. I want to help. I want to serve. And she did call me quite a bit. And, there were times when she was really feeling down. And I said, I understand. I said, for me, it's been 22 years and I still hurt every day. There's not a day go by that I don't miss Robert. I have a little statue with the baby in the cloud, and that's my what I hold on to. And that might seem silly to some people, but it's a way for me to talk to him without going, to his grave because he's in Kansas, so he's not even in Texas. And so for me that was really difficult. I used to go every year. I just help them too to find something that symbolizes something that will help them. And it can be anything. For her, she had left his room just the way it was when he passed. We talked about that. I told her it's your time. It's no one else's time. Don't listen to people who tell you you got to move on. You should be over it by now. It's in your time. You do what works for you. And that's something that is really important and that a lot of people in grief don't understand. And when you go to a therapist or whatever, honestly, they want you to move on. They want you to clear out the room, clear out the closet. That's not my philosophy. I learned the hard way. I don't want others to suffer that way. I want them to do it on their time.
I love that approach because it seems almost counterintuitive to me to tell someone that grief has a timeline. I feel like everyone would have a unique journey that they have to go through to process that grief, and there's no set timeline. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and there really isn't. And everybody goes through their dips and valleys and even the stages of grief. We can go through those stages several times throughout our journey. And we have to understand that and give ourselves grace, give ourselves empathy. This is tough, but family is the worst.
Mm.
And it's sad, but the loved ones around us want us to move forward and want us to keep going. And they mean well, but they're not supportive. And we have to understand that we have to get support elsewhere. And whether it be a best friend, a church, an item, whatever it needs to be, that's okay.
I think that's wonderful advice. This woman you worked with, obviously, you never stop grieving. Like you said, 22 years into it, you still feel the pain. But eventually, you were able to help this woman uncover her purpose and come out the other side with that joy that you mentioned. What did that look like for her?
Well, she actually now is a coach herself,
Oh,
and she kind of shares her story, and that's one of the things that to me is so amazing because honestly, we all go through stuff and we all have stories, but when we can share that story from a place of vulnerability and authenticity, it's there to help others. because we're all going to go through the opportunities, the valleys, the journeys, and everyone's journey looks different. I still have moments where it's like, okay, what next? I mean, the last 2 years in my life have been really tough. I mean, I lost my dad and my mother within the same year and within a 6-month period. Those struggles are real. But if we can honor ourselves and truly look inside our heart and ask ourselves, what is it that we need? Because it's okay to take time for yourself. And so many times as women entrepreneurs, we don't. We don't take the time for ourselves. We don't take the time to reflect. And we don't take the time to ask ourselves, what brings me joy? Because once we do that, even on a daily basis now, I look around at stuff because I'm starting to declutter the house because I'm older and the kids are older and it's like they don't want our stuff. So it's time to go, what brings me joy? If it doesn't bring me joy, it needs to go.
That's
So
fantastic. I love that. That's such an interesting philosophy, and what I'm hearing is that as you help other women find their purpose, find that joy, they then spread that to others. So it's almost like a ripple effect. You said it leaves this legacy of strength, love, and impact. So this positive influence just spreads. I'd love to understand how empathy and vulnerability really become catalysts for that kind of collective resilience. So you're helping individuals, but then all of a sudden you've created this collectively resilient community of women.
it didn't start out to be that way. But what I've learned too is, like my company's name is Heart Led Awakening. When I'm working with these women is I believe in that heart. Our heart can help lead us. And the heart is all about healing, embracing, awakening, renewing, and transforming. So as we're going through our story, our crisis, the things that we are doing, we have to also look inside ourselves. And as I started working with these women, and as we share our stories together, one of the things that we've learned is that there are so many similarities to each and every one of us, even though it might not be grief for each one of us. It could be anxiety, it could be stress, it could be the world's expectations that have been put upon us. When we start believing that we are worthy and that we have a story to share and that we can grow and help others and inspire others by just being us. And the more we connect as women and the more we share our stories and our tribulations and the tragedies, the crises, the more powerful we become. And I truly believe that the world right now needs more empathy and more strength and power in resilience than ever before.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the work that you're doing is contributing to that need, Debbie. So thank you for doing what you do. I'd love to hear just one final takeaway. If there's someone out there who's experiencing pain, grief, anxiety, at this moment, listening to this episode, what's one thing you would suggest they do? What's that first step they should take to start to emerge from that pain?
The first thing that I would do is I would say, find a quiet place where there's no distractions and it's just you. If your thing is to turn on the music and just close your eyes and lay there and think and ask yourself, what brings me joy? And write it down and then start doing that every single day. But also just know that it's okay to take a breath. It's okay to be in the pain, but just reflect and look inside yourself, inside your heart, and ask yourself, Who am I? Because if you don't know and you're looking in the mirror and you don't recognize the person looking back at you, how can you take that next step?
That's beautiful, Debbie. I love that. It's given me something to think about as well. I think the self-reflection is so incredibly important, whether you're in deep pain or not, to just always take a step back and think, who am I? What is my joy and how can I bring joy to others? What a wonderful mission you have. Tell us, where can we find you if any of my listeners are interested in learning more about your work? Do you have a website? Are you on social media? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me at DebiLynnFL.com. I've got friendsinGrief.com. I'm on LinkedIn and just Debi Lynn. And I would love to talk with anyone who is just wanting to change and realize who they are inside. I would love to be that anchor.
We all need more anchors in our lives. Thank you so much for being with me today, Debbie, and for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. Very inspired by your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you would like to learn more about the Empathy Collective, check out our website, theempathycollective.com. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.